Jennifer Meadows is with me today. I met Jen a few years ago in one recreational center. We were attending one dance class, but I must confess that it wasn't us who were in that dance class shaking, but our young daughters. So since then, Jen and I are meeting probably every week, sometimes even every day, because our daughters are age mates and we live in the same neighborhood. We are the members of the same school community. So I decided to welcome her to my liminal world, and I'm glad that she accepted to be here with me and with all of you. So Jen, first, thank you. Thank you for coming and being here.
Thank you, Natasha. It's really lovely to be here. I know usually we see each other in person, but we've been used to doing this now for the last couple months as we've been in lockdown and quarantine. So it's nice to touch base again and be able to see each other in person, but also on your blog here. I did meet Natasha again, as she mentioned, through our daughter's dance class. They're both 7. We've become very good friends, and our husbands are friends, and our daughters play really well together. They both have initials, the I's they call themselves, as both their names start with I's. So they've become best friends, and through that we've met some lifelong friends as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jen. And first, can you please, I want to ask you, can you please introduce yourself with a few words?
Yes. So again, my name is Jennifer Meadows, and I've moved to Victoria about 10 years ago. My husband Jeremy and I, we bought a house here right downtown Victoria. We are homeowners and landlords. I work currently as a recreation receptionist through the municipality of Saanich. I deal with a lot of community involvement, and we're a very busy center. And I'm a co-chair of the PAC at my daughter's elementary school. So I work very closely with fundraising, activities, and bringing together the community in the school so all the families can connect and get to know each other.
Yes. That's why I need you. That's why I need you for my project, because you can share a lot. Today we have a specific topic, but we will come to that in just a few minutes. First, I wanna put our story in a context, which is coronavirus situation. And I want to ask you, when did you hear about Corona and how did you react?
First, my husband was traveling. He travels a lot with his job in January. And we were a bit worried initially at first because it was right near the end of January when we started hearing more and more about it in the news. And I felt like we were so far away on this island that it wouldn't kind of reach us, that we were safe. And so when he returned from his trip, we were all kind of talking about how things were at the airports, and that the news started to kind of get closer and closer to home. And then so we sort of started planning what that might look like here. But it wasn't until really March, just before March break, when we were going to have a school closure for 2 weeks, that I realized that this was coming very close to home, and that we were going to be required to quarantine, lock down, and stay in our homes and be social distance from all of our friends, our family. And so it was in March when I realized that this is really connecting, hitting us here. And most of our friends were about to travel and go abroad. So I was really worried for their safety, and if they had already left or come back, contracting this virus, and just trying to inform my parents and family members that this was serious and that we needed to not take it lightly, because it was coming quickly and we had to react fast.
Lockdown and self-isolation had a great toll on our professional lives as well as our personal lives. And today you and I agreed to talk about more about that personal side, so about our family lives. Yeah. So let's start by saying, can you tell me what were the changes you were facing, you and your family?
Well, the one thing that we started off initially, as I mentioned, I work in a recreation center. We have swimming lessons, drop-in programming, aerobics. We have a well-visited, busy weight room. We have all kinds of activities from all ages. So with that being said, we had to shut down the facilities, which was a huge reaction for people because that's where people went to, you know, socialize and to get healthy and get fit. And now we're locking down, we're closing the facilities. And then school was closing. We had, like I mentioned before, I'm a landlord, so we have these 3 suites. We live in one of them, and one of the suites was vacated April 1st, just in the start of this whole pandemic. And for us, it was a reality check because we didn't feel comfortable, as most people probably understand, showing the space to rent it to prospective tenants because of our health and our safety for others and taking them through. The social distancing was at the top awareness level. We wanted to make sure that we were going to wait until we had some clearance about when we felt comfortable doing that. So financially, that was a bit of a struggle trying to deal. We still have an empty suite at the moment, looking possibly now in September to hopefully, fingers crossed, find someone that we find suitable. And so, yeah, being not able to work and being all of a sudden a teacher for my daughter, as most families can relate to, and just financially having that for us to pay our bills and make everything work, we didn't have that income coming in again like that we were used to. So that was a bit of a struggle for us. And just working all together in one place, like all in the same place all the time, and trying to give each other the space and everything we need to just get some alone time, but get the work that we needed done, and try to make it as fun as possible.
I haven't asked you before, but I should have. Do you know anybody with corona? Like your family is safe and your friends, you don't know anybody who catch the
No,
corona?
I didn't know of anybody that personally in my family or my husband's family that are friends that did get the coronavirus or had. Some people were experiencing symptoms from his trip in January. His coworkers, they live on the mainland. So in Vancouver, some of them came back feeling a little bit like they didn't quite know if it was just the food and the drinks from where they were, or if it was possibly the coronavirus. It was still sort of new at that time, and testing wasn't quite as amped up as it was. So we were still unclear if it was that or not. And again, my daughter was sick in February, but we didn't know. We had taken her to see our family doctor, and fever and just lethargic and low appetite, low energy, and yet they just said it was probably a cold or flu or something. So we don't really know, and we never had anyone tested that we love or know, but not that we're aware of that anyone had it.
Because every time we are talking about the impact of corona, like people who have somebody in the family or who lost, they were affected the most.
Right.
Then financial struggles, and then changes in our lifestyles, but that's like nothing comparing to the losses many people experienced. So that's why I always ask. I don't know anybody like you, so but I always love to check what to ask.
Yeah, like I feel very fortunate. I feel as though Victoria took a stand and was very much in control of the situation before it escalated and could have got out of hand. So thankfully most of our families here, and that we were okay and safe and healthy.
We were lucky. We all know that every change go hand in hand with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiety, and we all deal with that in a different way. So I would love to ask you, what was the most difficult for you to handle?
I feel as though initially it was just the financial stress, taking a leave of absence from work, trying to figure out what we should do with our current space that was vacant. I was turning to social media, as most people do as a distraction, and trying to initiate my daughter into some more connection with her friends via Zoom and via FaceTime Messenger. But doing so, sometimes it leads you onto this path of bombardment, like, oh, look how much they're doing in lockdown, and yeah, we didn't even get it out of our pajamas today. Like, so it sometimes you would feel like you needed that distraction, but then you would get overwhelmed that you weren't maybe doing enough, or maybe we should have pushed to get more school done today. And so I think that thing was very difficult to try to just give ourselves space. Like we're all multitasking, we're all doing our best, but not to try to put yourself in a negative situation that comparing or just looking at what other people are doing doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for us. But it's easy to do, and I think it paints a picture that sometimes can leave you feeling a little bit negative at the end of the day, and say, okay, we'll just hope for more tomorrow. So that was one thing that I felt that yeah, like with us, we were trying to always plan ahead. Like I'm a planner too, so I couldn't do that. And I still can't do that. So trying to like facilitate everything that we always usually do, activities and things like that, it was like halted. And for me, that was a hard struggle and isolation, and still dealing with that, trying to plan for what we're going to do come September and month to month. It's for me, I like to plan everything out as far as I can, and I think it works for our family that we are able to do that. But now we're just kind of on a wait and see and hold basis, and as everyone is. But that was hard to kind of let that just go. And okay.
Yes, when we plan things, especially as moms, it's it gives us that some framework, so we can hold the space when something unexpected is actually coming, or we have to deal with an unexpected thing. So having a framework is actually very useful. So how to motivate your kid, or for example, currently our daughters are in the camp right now.
Yeah.
But every time my daughter is asking me about the August, I was like, I don't know. Right. You might go. I don't know. What are you saying? What are you saying?
I'm basically saying that we're taking everything at a time, like basically a week at a time for now, because we can sort of map out play dates and map out maybe based on weather or like family. Now that we've opened up our bubble a little bit to visit with friends and family, that we can plan a little bit ahead, but not to get too far ahead so that we're setting expectations that we may not be able to meet.
Can we go back on school? For example, in our community, school was reopened June 1st, and many parents decided to leave their kids at home. Some decided, we all had to make the tough decision. Should we allow them to go or not? And we all had our own reasons. So how did you deal with that? How did you explain? That's what I'm also interested in. How did you explain to her?
My husband and I had a lot of discussions about it prior to letting Isla sort of in on what we were thinking. And so we had said to her, school is now back in session and you'll be able to return on a part-time basis. It would only be for 2 days a week, and you're not necessarily going to be with your teacher. At the time, we weren't sure if it was going to be the teacher or friends, but you could go back. And I wanted to see sort of what initially her reaction would be. And she like looked at me like, I'm not going back. Now she's an anxious child to begin with, and we knew that would be, our decision was not to send her. Just personally, we thought homeschooling and everything we were doing, we were in a groove. So it felt like, why change this for just a few days a week when everything was going pretty smoothly at home? And so for her, I said, would you feel like going back? And she had questions of if so-and-so would be there too, and what would she do? And I said, well, we'll still see your teacher. We'll still have Zoom meetings. We'll still be doing the activities that the classmates are doing. And so she felt relief that she didn't have to go. It wasn't, she wasn't pushed to go into it, and that she'd still be, she was worried about if she would be finishing her grade and moving on to the next. And I said that we would continue all the stuff we were doing and nothing would change, and she'd still graduate and move on to the next grade in September. So she was, I think at that, she was at ease. And then she heard a bit about her friends returning, and then she kind of was like, oh, maybe I should have went back. But overall, for the length of time that they went, it made sense for our family to stay, just stay doing what we were doing.
I know we ended up making completely different decision. So my kid went to the school in June, and she felt like excited, and they did a lot of nice things. Only 2 days. But at the end, I spoke with the teacher. They were all, in a sense, sad because the year was finished the way it was. and they couldn't, meet with parents and do all the stuff we usually do at the end of the year. Our school community is very tight, and we all belong there, and we all do like the best. And last year we had a graduation day, so it wasn't the same.
No,
Although
yeah,
she enjoyed, it wasn't the same.
our school comes together, as you probably will remember last year. They come together, the whole school goes to Willows Beach. It's this beautiful beach near us. I mean, they take the bus, they get all bused there, and they take the whole day, the whole school, to spend at the beach. And my daughter was planning beach day the day after beach day last year for this year. So she was very upset that families are all welcome to come. You spend the whole day at the beach, and it's so much fun. And then it brings us all together. And we, as a pack, we're planning grade 5 graduation and planning to have a year-end sort of fun day, and none of that happened. So for that part, for the kids and the staff and families, there was no real closure. It was definitely a learning curve, I think, for most families and teachers to change from seeing face-to-face instruction to sending these Zoom, meeting requests, and sending everything via, we have this Fresh Grade app, and via email, some of our work and our studies via that. So I feel like I applaud the teachers and families who are able to get on board with that in social media and trying to understand what they need to do and help their children to, to survive and get through the stuff they needed to do.
I also enjoyed it, especially in the project they were having, because that was a good distraction for me.
Yes.
Like we did a lot with animals. We made a maze. We made a family tree. So I love that, because, during the day you're listening all the bad news, and suddenly, because you have to homeschool them, the projects were my to-go thing, just to relax and say, okay, everything will be fine. And, to stay positive. How did you stay positive? What did you do?
What did I do? I felt the best way for us and myself to stay positive and just, if we were in the house as much as we were, we decided that we needed to be outside in nature just as much, if not more. So we really spent, no matter what the weather was like, a lot of time outside hiking. My daughter was never really into biking. I think it was because we never had time. We were always rushing from school to this activity to this activity. And then she just started saying, I want to go biking. So we were doing a ton of biking, which she just started to love. And it was super fun to be able to have that time together without having to rush. And so we could spend more time on learning some of the skills that she, lifelong skills she'll need to learn, rules of the road, and just getting out in nature. That was the one way I could feel like,
you also have a great distraction because you have a nice backyard. And you can always do some gardening and spend some time also there.
Yes. And, I was saying to someone before about gardening for us as a busy family. It seemed to be the last couple of years to be like, oh, we still have to do the garden today. It was like more of work that was expected that we needed to do for it to flourish. And then this year, because we've had that time together to be able to spend, it became a great distraction. It was like, oh, but we can plant all these and take our time, and we can set it up. And it was something that we enjoyed doing because we had more time to do it. And you're absolutely right. Spending outside in the garden was just something we look forward to each day. We'd plan it up to our day, our structure, like, okay, in the afternoon, we're going to go and we're going to plant the tomatoes now, and we're going to check on how the asparagus is doing. So it gave us something to look forward to, as well, the progress of it from the beginning of kind of the lockdown to now. It's very rewarding. So that was another great thing as a family we could do together, and brought us a lot of, for us now, it's just very positive to see the results coming, and we'll be able to share with all of our friends and you guys, in August, when everything kind of comes in full bloom and ready to eat. And
I want sunflowers. That's the only thing I want.
Okay.
Because they're beautiful, and
yes,
put me on your list. Now, when we are in the next phase of coronavirus, how has that changed your family plans?
The one thing that has definitely been a blessing is we've been able to visit with my parents and my in-laws. And so we hadn't seen them since the beginning of March. And so just having to be able to see each other in person and be able to hug them. And my daughter is best friends with my mom, her Nana. So she was just so thrilled to be able to see her. That's all she's been saying. When can I see Nana? When can I see Nana? When is Grandma and I going to be able to talk other than see each other on FaceTime? So that's been a true blessing. We were able to connect with them just over a week ago for like a long visit. And so that was really, really wonderful. With my return to the work that I do in recreation, now that we are in this next phase, we can start offering the camps for families, for kids. Our weight room will be opening so people can start connecting and getting healthy and fit again in a safe and social distance environment. So it's a whole new world in the sense of how you look at working out and getting active, but it still brings people back together again as our rec center is built to do. So that has been something I've returned to slowly. Being able to just register for my daughter for a camp, we weren't sure what the summer would look like and how we would hold her interest. We'd already been doing everything since the middle of March, really, as a family. So being able to give her that instruction and that fun adventure for her to look forward to was something I was so excited to be able to do. We were excited to see that the splash pads were opening. We thought, oh, the parks, when they closed down the parks, that, we have a sprinkler and we have water balloons in the backyard, but that's not like a splash pad where you can just go get wet and, on a hot day and have fun and just go for ice cream or something after. We thought just the simple things that you usually look forward to in the summer, going to the beach and going camping. Now we're talking about going camping, which we thought we wouldn't be able to do. We have wonderful parks and beautiful locations on Vancouver Island for us to go to that we always at least plan once a summer to go camping. So looking at what we can do and planning that now and feeling at ease that we're able to go and enjoy that time as a family. That's been really wonderful because we like to look forward to things. Most humans, most families, most people like to plan and look forward to something, and gets you through those days where you're maybe having a difficult time.
And summer breaks are perfect reason, perfect time of the year when you can do things you usually don't do during the school year.
Yes.
And we've been waiting for some sunny days for a long time.
Yeah.
If we would be experiencing this again, this lockdown and isolation, what would you do differently? Is there anything you would do differently? Or
I would probably, if I could do this again, and I don't think that I would like to do this again, but if I was to have in a place to be having to do this all over, I would push ourselves to be more into routine. For the first couple months there, we were doing a lot of planned, structured days. And then there were some days there where the weather was the pits and I wouldn't push us to get dressed and get moving as much as I would have before. So I think I would have kept that going and not sort of have a lull in that time frame, because I think that routine of getting up, getting ready, and feeling like, you're motivated to do things during the day helps the whole family see that purpose in life, and that you're, even though you're not able to go to school or leave the house, that you can still be engaged and still take care of those things that maybe I didn't feel like is necessary. I know my daughter was loving her pajamas and my pajamas, because we would just have days where we'd build forts and play games and we would bake, and it was super fun days that we'll look back on and be like, oh, those are wonderful days. And maybe if I had have just kept that sort of plan up all the time, it would be better for us. I would also probably take a look at social media and give it a break. I don't know if I would have engaged as much of that as I did in the last couple months, because it does get to be a little bit draining. You read a lot of fake news and a lot of opinions on there that you don't really think you know, at the end of the day is necessary, and sometimes they stay in with you. And so I think just setting that aside, giving it a rest, giving it a break would have been good going forward if something like this was to happen. Then it depletes you and it's draining. And so I feel like that's something I wouldn't do going forward. And yeah, maybe more document. I was saying my daughter and I should have been documenting maybe like as we were going through this each day, just how we were feeling and maybe what just memories of certain days that we'll look back on 20 years. Because she thinks, oh, there's never been a pandemic in your life, Mommy. How come there's one with me? But I think we'll look back at this time and like we had all this time as a family, we were safe and healthy. So that's all you can really be thankful for and wish for at the end of the day. And
if somewhere out there is a person who is still feeling stuck, whether they're alone or in the family, you know, and things are not functioning and they don't know how to get out of that worry state, what would you say to motivate them? What would you say to just make them feel more active or more can I say not just active now, just what would you say to them in order to get them out of that stuckness and make them do something?
I kept telling myself at the start that this was temporary and that we were doing this for the safety of our family, for everyone that in our community, and that to just take a minute and to reflect on what exactly we missed from what our lives were like before. So we had an activity, my daughter and I, where we decided let's make a jar of ideas of things that we would like to do once lockdown, once we can still social distance, but be able to see our friends and open up our bubbles. So we decided, and it was very simple, but it was very exciting because there was all these things that we used to take for granted, like being able to go to all the different parks, go to splash pads, go to just everyday things that we used to do. So we decided we just make this jar, and I have it here, that we wrote down ideas of things we would do after we were able to get out of lockdown. And so, for instance, like my thing that made me happy to think about being able to do was hug Nana and Papa, so my parents, because we really missed them. So that was something we came up with together that we wrote.
Nice.
And just and go to the library. Like we take that for granted because we go every week. We'd have all these new books to read, and it was just an outing that we loved, and we've been doing since my daughter's been so little. So that was something we could look forward to and break into and go, oh yes, so it gives you that time to think about all the things that you want to do when you can, and get the rest that you need into your body. Eat healthy, have a few days where you can have guilty treats just for your health, whether it be chocolate or a glass of wine. Get out into nature, call someone, ask them how they're doing, because text messaging's fine, but sometimes just hearing the voice makes a difference. Yeah, and I would say just know it's temporary and that you're doing this for your own health and safety, because again, we don't know how long this is going to go on, but if we all do this together, then we're all in this together, right? So that was something we found to be I would recommend doing. And again, it can just be anything. So my daughter's was have a sleepover. She can't wait to be able to have a sleepover again. And mine was to get a massage. So I guess it just depends on what you like to do and what you sort of.
Those are all simple, common things.
Right.
Sometimes we don't appreciate.
Right.
And living in this type of situation is giving us it's refreshing us. And in a sense, we are realizing that those are things we love. Those are things we should embrace more, and we should do more. As you said, reconnection, taking care of ourselves, reaching out to close friends, spending time in nature, simple things which are not out of our reach.
Right.
We can all afford that. We can all afford that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer, and thanks for being with us here. I hope to see you soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Natasha, and to everyone. Again, Bonnie Henry, she's been our lead here in BC, and she's been, her wise words are always be kind, be calm, and be safe. And I just want to say to everyone that this is a unique time, but we can all get through this. And yeah, hug the people you love while you can, and just know it's all temporary, but we'll do this together.
Thank you for this message.